Um, it is a kind of a two-parter between last week's meeting and today's meeting. So we'll just go ahead and get rolling. Um, so last week, like I said, we already talked about why is Michael Vick trying to join the admin here? I'm gonna allow it. Over under, that's Kingston. All right, so here we go. Coverage identification. This is what we talked about last week, right? Once again, middle foot open, middle foot closed. What the indicators are. We started talking about the depth and leverage of the safeties and corners. Um, talking about how they have, their butt is usually going to indicate where their help is, their feet and how important they are, whether they're staggered feet or flat feet, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so once again, that was last week. Um, this this week is kind of the part two of it. We're actually going to look at a little bit of just some basic graphs, and then if we have enough time at the end, you might even see a little bit of Coach Bullens' film from back in the day with a little bit of dots for you guys. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go kind of in order, the same way we did last week. We're going to talk about cover one first. There's two types of variations of cover one. We'll talk about that. After that, we'll go cover two, three, four, and then we'll finish off with cover zero. Okay. So this is the first kind of variation of cover one that you guys will see. This is man free, cover one man free. So essentially the difference between man free and the second cover one that we're going to look at, which is cover one robber, cover one rat, um, is essentially an extra blitzer. That extra blitzer is going to be in man free, and the robber or the rat, or whatever you want to call it, he's going to be sinking off into a zone. That's the only difference between the two. Nine times out of 10, for any type of week in and week out scenario, game plan wise, it will be the same person who is blitzing versus who is dropping in coverage. Usually it's a strong safety, but we'll talk about all that stuff. Okay. So, once again, the strengths and weaknesses of all these types of base coverages. Okay. So, the strengths of cover one man free, it's a five-man rush, like we talked about. It's an extra rusher. In this scenario, they have the Mike who's rushing. And then you see everybody else is essentially manned up. Corner on the X, corner on the Z. They're calling this the Joker or the Jack. He's on the Y, manned up, and then their Rover is manned up on the H. Okay, so in our offense for the 707, it'd be the Z and the Y split out to the right, and then the X and the F on the backside with the H in the backfield. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. Five-man rush, you get the extra rusher. So it throws off timing routes because of the press coverage. Timing routes are anything that we're going to use as a three no hitch. So anything in Harvey routes, outbacks, usually even seams are going to be considered timing routes. Okay, so those types of routes can really be thrown off because if the receiver gets jammed right off the line, it really kind of throws off the timing in terms of 1, 2, 3 foot in the ground, supposed to be thrown at this certain spot on the field. Our receiver might not be there. The DB might be there in place of the receiver because you jam him up at the line. Next thing you know, it's a incomplete pass, a batted down ball, or even worse, a pick, right? So let's be aware that these type of press coverages can throw off timing. These lower percentage throws, um, so we're talking just basic football IQ here, just basic quarterback stuff, right? Do you guys think it's easier, or do you think it's a higher completion throw or a lower completion throw to throw something 5 yards on the field versus 50, right? Like it's going to make sense that a 5 yard throw is a higher completed percentage than what a 50-yard throw down the field would be. There's less room for error. The less time the ball is in the air, you can really place it in a lot better spot than what you would 50 yards down the field, right? Well, here's the thing with the press coverage, once again, two and three kind of go hand in hand. With the press coverage, it takes away a lot of those free access or those gimme throws, those routes that are 5 yards or, even quick game throws as a general. So your hitches, your quick outs, your slants, those are now a lot harder to complete because of the press coverage. And we'll talk about what free access and all that kind of stuff is down the line. But yeah, just in a general sense, this press coverage makes it a lower percentage throw. And then number four, it forces because of a lower percentage throw, taking away anything that's short, it forces the vertical and the intermediate passing game. Okay, so because they're taking away everything close, they're still going to play man to man all the way across the board. It's essentially going to force the offense to call any type of intermediate and vertical passing game, especially when you're in the field. And when I say in the field, we're talking from the 20-yard line to 20-yard line. Obviously, we're not talking about red zone or if we're backed up, right? But anything 20-yard line to 20-yard line, that's when we're talking about. It forces the vertical and intermediate passing game. Okay. And the last strength here is that personnel mismatches. This could also be a disadvantage. We'll talk about that in a second. But personal personnel mismatches. Let's say you're on the NFL team, right? And you got Darrell Revis, you got Charles Woodson, you got Pat Surtain and Pat Surtain the second or junior out there, right? Those are your four starting DBs. You're gonna have a pretty good personnel lineup, right, going into that game, especially if you're going up against a high school team, for example, right? Just giving a basic example. Your personnel mismatch is going to be in the favor of the defense there. But on the flip side of it, which we'll talk about in a second, the weaknesses of this is, let's say we had Megatron, Julio Jones, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson out there, right? And they have a JV team, high school team out there. Now the personnel mismatch is a weakness for the defense because they don't have the skill level as those receivers do, right? So that's just a general sense there. Moving on to the weaknesses other than personnel mismatch. So any type of rub or crossing route can really mess up just man coverage as a whole. Whenever those two receivers are running at the same depth across the field, one of those guys, as in the defenders, are going to have to bubble over the other one to try to cover their man still, and that can get pretty hairy because if they don't bubble over, they're going to run into each other, and you're going to have two wide open guys compared to one if they run into each other, right? So any type of rub or crossing routes, that concept where two receivers are going to run right next to each other is known as mesh, or we'll run mesh pretty heavily whenever we start installing, going into the second and third install for the 7-on-7. Okay, so another weakness is defending the option just as a whole, defending the option, run or pass. Specifically talking about the run game here. There's nobody accounted for the quarterback here in man free, right? You see that we have, just looking at this basic example here, you got one, two, three, four, five guys rushing. Well, nobody's necessarily manned up on the quarterback. So in this specific look, let's say if we were to run inside zone or zone read and when this DN crashes, well, if the quarterback pulls the ball and scampers, who's there to pick him up now? It's got to be the rover or the free safety. Okay, so once again, there's nobody necessarily accounting for the quarterback in this specific look. So things can get pretty hairy as a defense if you're calling a lot of man free and that quarterback is a runner, especially because they can really hurt you in the run game. Talking about pass game, it's an option route. So, whether defender likes to play outside leverage and man, or if he likes to play inside leverage, if we have an option route, it doesn't necessarily matter, right? Because we're depending on where that defender is, that receiver is just going to go opposite, and we have him quote unquote out leveraged or beat at that point. Okay, so that's why defending the option run or pass is a weakness for the defense. Okay, moving on to the third point here. Underneath man coverage only has so much help. Once again, these guys, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be decently matched up with each other, right? Like, let's say you have me guarding another version of me, right? Like these are two high school guys or two college guys going back and forth at each other. Somebody's going to win the rep, but the longer that the play develops, the harder it is for that defender to cover every single second, every single step with that receiver, right? So eventually our receivers are going to win. So once again, the underneath man coverage only has so much help. It's really them or nobody, right? Because the only other guy behind them is that free safety. So they better be on their P's and Q's about covering that man for as long as they can, right? Hopefully the D line or that extra Mike linebacker blitzing can get some rush on the quarterback. And once again, we've already talked about personnel mismatch. If our receivers are better than their DBs, that's a personal mismatch for us, or excuse me, for them. We have the advantage as an offense. Okay. So is there any questions on man free before we move on to man one robber? All right, cool. Moving on. All right, here we go. Cover one robber. So you see the difference between man free and cover one robber is this extra guy now, right? He is covering the middle of the field, kind of right in that middle hole beneath the safety. Um, he's going to try to essentially cover anything that's going over the middle of the field. And we'll talk about the strength and weaknesses of that as well here in a second. Okay, but both of these, what you should realize, it is a middle field close coverage and it is man coverage regardless. Middle field close and it's man. That's basically the gist of it. Whether they try to blitz an extra guy, we should minimum, we should have 5 in protection regardless. So we should be picked up if they run man free, and here they're only rushing 4. So once again, we should be protected either way. Okay, so moving on. Strengths. It's a 4-man rush, so it's a basic 4-man rush there. Nothing out of the blue, nothing out of the ordinary there. Once again, throws off timing routes. We've already talked about that. They're in press coverage. Throws off the timing because of, if the linebacker gets hands on the slot, or if the corner gets hands on the outside receiver, and jams them up off the line, it can get pretty tough for our receiver to run and get to a certain spot at a certain time in the play. Okay. Once again, lower percentage throws. They're going to try to force that vertical passing game. So that's going to force a lot of lower completed percentage throws compared to just taking like a free access hitch or an open alley slant on the backside if they have an overhang and all that kind of stuff, right? So once again, first it forces the vertical and intermediate passing game. Once again, personnel mismatches can be in favor if they have a really good secondary. And the last but not least here, a little bit extra because of this guy playing that middle zone now. In this case, it's strong safety. He is now the extra run support player. So if there's going to be any type of run, obviously runs 9 times out of 10 are going to be within the box. Where we're saying box is tackle to tackle, offensive tackle to defensive tackle, maybe even a tight end if he's involved. Okay, what we're saying is that now any type of run, that safety now is the guy that's going to be that extra defender to fit the run and fit, right? So they got the 4D linemen, linebackers covering certain gaps. Well, now if all those are taken up, this guy is now basically scot-free to blow up any type of run game coming down in his direction. Okay, so just that's another strength for them there in terms of running cover one robber. Moving on to the weaknesses. Once again, we already talked about most of these. It's going to be basically the same thing. Rubs and crossing routes, once again, mesh. One of those defenders are going to have to bubble over the other one. Otherwise, those guys are just going to run face first into each other, and both of our receivers are going to be wide open. Okay. Another type of rub route or just rub concept is slant flat. So that slant player, the slant receiver, is going to go pick the guy that's covering the slot. And we say we're technically can't say pick because picks are technically illegal. But he's going to go run his slant right in the line of that receiver or that defender covering the slot receiver. And basically that flat defender or the flat defender is now or the guy that covering the flat is now going to have to either bubble over that receiver or just take just get blown off his assignment. And that flat route by the slot should be pretty wide open. Okay. So once again, defending the option, run and pass. Same thing. There's nobody that's technically man to man on the quarterback. So if quarterback, if we run zone read once again, Dean crashes, we pull. Now we're one-on-one with the strong safety, make him miss, and now you should be pretty scot-free to the end zone. Unless you're a guy like Caden, you'll probably get hawked about 5 yards on the field. Okay, so there's that. All right, and once again, underneath man coverage only has so much help. Now they do have a little bit more of help, a little bit extra help here because of this extra guy sitting in the middle of the field, right? If it's a drop back pass concept, these guys are going to be reading your eyes 9 times out of 10. So if you looking to the right, these guys are going to sink to the right, sink to the left. If you're looking left, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so and we're talking about the strong safety specifically there in this look. Everybody else is going to be manned up. Okay, but that strong safety is going to be reading your eyes. Same thing for the free. So if you're starting to just stare down the receiver on the right side, those guys are going to start floating over. If we're running a concept that is like a flood concept, somebody that's breaking out on the right, that strong safety now has a pretty good chance of making a play on it. Okay, so once again, that's even more important. Ties back into how important it is to keep our eyes down the middle for the first step on any type of drop back, because those guys are going to be looking at your eyes, right? Holding them in for that extra half second in the box, then snap your eyes out to where they're supposed to be, and now you got a little bit more separation. Okay, so there's that. So the weaknesses, once again, 4 and 5 here. We'd like to keep the ball on the perimeter because now they have, once again, that extra player in the middle of the field. So if we have pretty good guys on the outside, let's just take advantage of that, right? If we're going to have a pretty good slot guy and they're going to try to line a linebacker up on him, let's take advantage of that mismatch and keep him away from the extra player in the middle of the field. So we'll run a lot of outbreaking routes. Once again, just going back to it like flood concept, we'll run some smash, right? Just get that guy in the corner route, man on man with the backer, boom, we should win that, right? And last thing here, but once again, personnel mismatch. If we have 4 studs and they have 4 duds, okay, that's the easiest way to look at it. Any questions on cover one, Robert? All right, moving on. Okay, cover two. Difference between cover two and cover one, middle of the field open. Okay, what we're talking about middle of the field open, okay, is now the middle of the field in between the hashes is wide open, right? And we'll talk about the strength and weaknesses of that as well. Okay, so strengths for cover two, it is designed to stop the pass. Cover two is the most basic coverage designed to stop the pass. There's five underneath zones occupied, so it's very hard to throw anything underneath. Short and intermediate game is basically dead against cover two. There are some ways that you can attack it and manipulate a defender to get your guys open underneath, but once again, just as a basic sense, it's pretty hard to throw against cover two. They got two guys over top, which is going to take away a lot of your deeper stuff, and with five zones underneath that are covered, it's pretty difficult to get there as well. Okay. A strength for the defense here is that the corners can help in any type of outside run or stretch coming towards that way. The corners in cover two are the extra run support players. In cover two, once again, the corners are the extra run support players. So any type of outside run towards them, they're just going to shed that receiver off his block, or if he's going to run a route, he's going to shed him, let him go by because he's got the flats either way, right? It's not his responsibility to carry in vertical. Then boom, he sees outside run, he's going to come down and make a play. Okay, so right there, pretty easily to see that. All right, the number four here, able to disguise cover four easily. Cover two and cover four, we'll show cover four here in a couple minutes. Cover four is another middle field open look, two safeties high, and it's you can disguise it very easily. Those two are very interchangeably disguisable. You can disguise cover two to look like cover four and vice versa. Okay, so the difference between cover two and cover four is that the cover four, these corners are going to sink off deeper. They're going to play a deep quarter. In cover two, obviously they're playing the flats. Okay, but pre-snap is going to look very similar. All right, moving on number five. We're kind of talked about this. Strong against perimeter runs. Just as a whole, these corners are going to fill anything outside. Those are the run support players, and even if they make those guys try to bubble or run back outside, it's going to be long enough for the Sam or the Rover, whoever, to come make a play downhill. Okay, so there's that. Moving on to the weaknesses. 18 to 22 yards on the sideline, aka the honey hole. What we're talking about, so specifically, is this spot in between the high safety and the corner, kind of this area right here. That's what we call the honey hole, right? So if you have a fade out concept, aka clover, right? You guys should know two by two clover by now, doubles right clover, right? We're looking one to the fade, two to the out, right? Well, if that fade is open in between the corner and the safety, we can plug that, okay? And that shot is called a honey hole shot. It's a tough ass throw. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a tough throw to make, but you guys are big boys. You guys can make that throw, okay? So that's kind of a weak spot there. Middle of the field between the backers and over top of in between the safeties and over the backers right here. We're talking right there in the middle of the field. So if we run like a post from the Y and nobody carries them or none of these safeties collect them, that's a really easy completion right over the middle of the field. Just once again, you got to get over that Mike backer. He's playing hook curl right in the middle of the field. So if anything goes over top of him, you should be able to just kind of layer it right over him. Just put a little bit of touch, let him run and go get it. Okay, simple enough there. There's some room in the middle at the backer level. You essentially have to work away from the mic. I know last week we talked about it. Let me get back up to it here. Right here. Actually the last point. In cover two and cover four, the Mike linebackers you can drop towards the field or to the offensive strength. Well, let's go look at cover two once again. Okay, let's say the offensive strength is to the right here, which it is because of the running back. It's a basic two by two set, but the running back makes it to the right. Okay, let's say this Mike linebacker is taught to open to the right because that is the offensive strength. That means to the left side of this Mike linebacker, there's going to be uh, a little bit of ability to take advantage of that spot right there. This Will's going to drop hook curl to the left. This Mike, like we've already talked about, is going to drop more to the right because that has more offensive players. Well, that kind of leaves a vacant area in between the Will and the Mike to take advantage of. Okay, so we can look at that as well. That's more of like a game plan thing. Make sure to talk to your coaches about that specifically. Okay. Weaknesses once again is run game. They have one less guy in the box now. They took that extra guy in the box and put him back at the safety level. So now he should have better numbers in terms of run game. Once again, running game is 9 times out of 10 within the box. If they remove a player, that only helps offense out even more. Okay. So anything Once again, we've already talked about the corners being outside run support. Well, inside run support, they really don't have a lot. So if you got a pretty good O line, you can get a lot of gap action with them, or even zone run scheme at them. You should have a pretty successful day if they're going to stay in too high pretty much all day. Okay. A couple other weaknesses here: high-low reads on the corners. Talking about smash concept once again. Talking about California. So if we're talking Berkeley, we're talking Dodger, we're talking what else? Oakland, Hollywood. Okay, any of those types of plays in our 7-on-7 playbook, those are smash reads. Okay, let's take advantage of that. We're going to high-low read that corner and go opposite of him. If he goes high, we go low, and vice versa. Okay, simple enough. Last weakness here is vertical passing game. If we have three guys running vertical, there's only two safeties deep. Okay, so one of those safeties or one of our guys is going to have to be open based off just basic math, right? If we run three guys deep, run three guys vertical at these safeties, one of our guys should be open. So let's say we take the H, run him down the seam, take the Y, run him down the middle of the field on like a pipe route, and then the Z on the outside running the vertical. There's only two safeties, and then there's three of our guys running deep. One of them's going to be open. Okay, simple enough. Just have to read it out and plug and make the right throw from there. Okay, any questions on cover two? Moving on. Okay, cover three, middle of the field closed. Once again, looks a lot like cover one, either robber or cover one man free. Can be easily disguised either way. Okay, once again. So strengths of cover three is actually designed to stop the run. Now, once again, we talked about cover two. There's two safeties high. They're taking an extra guy out of the box. Now, cover three, they're bringing that one guy that was out of the box back down into the box. It's designed to stop the run. If they're that, once again, they have the extra man in the box now. It's difficult to beat deep. It's hard to get guys running vertical because they now have three guys playing deep, playing their deep third. So any type of vertical passing game, hell, we have to run four vertical now. We have to run four vertical to beat them because they have three guys playing deep, right? Well, same thing. Cover two, they only have two guys deep. Have to run three to beat them. Now, if they have three deep, we have to run four to beat them. Okay, so we'll have to look at that. Okay, and we already talked about it. Can disguise with man free or cover one robber. Okay, so those are the strengths there. Weaknesses: 18 to 22 yards on the seams. Okay, we're talking about right here in between the safety and the corner, over top the Mike and the Sam. Okay, kind of right here in between these zones. 18 to 22 yards once again. You should hear a common theme: 18 to 22 yards. That's going to be pretty common in terms of honey holes or seam shots and all that kind of stuff. Okay, 18 to 22 yards. Layer over those backers. Got to put a little bit of zip on it once again because you don't want to put it too high. That safety's can be able to make a play. So another weakness is flat routes or just gimmies, free access throws, speed outs, hitches, slants. Since these corners 9 times out of 10, depth and leverage, we've already talked about that last week. These guys are going to play off anywhere between 5 and 7, 9 yards even sometimes. If that will linebacker isn't going to fly the hell out of this inside zone, or excuse me, this like inside alignment, we should be able to just throw this hitch route all day, right? This is a free access throw. Something we look at pre-snap, say, hey, can we throw this right now? Yes or no? The answer is yes. In cover three, this corner is sitting too far off to make a play, and the backer isn't wide enough to try to make an actual play on the ball. Once again, still want to put that outside shoulder. You don't want to leave it too far inside because now if you leave it an extra yard inside, he could make a play on it. If you leave it a yard outside, he'll never make a play on it. Okay, so simple enough there. The high low flat defender curl flats are really really good concept into cover three. It puts that flat defender in a pretty tight bind. So we're talking about in this specific look here, it's the Will and the Rover. If we're running the curl by the Z and a flat route by the Y, this Rover, his eyes are going to be basically in the backfield, but what he's also going to see at his peripheral vision is this flat defender, right? So as soon as he sees the Y go flat, he's basically going to stick to him. It should open up that curl route coming right behind him. Okay, do have to be a little bit wary about the guys on the inside, but in good defense, you should not see a flat route or a flat defender playing here and then this hook curl flying all the way out there. That's two guys vacating essentially the middle of the field right there. You'll hardly ever see that. Okay, but curl flat, just as a general sense, is really good against cover three. So horizontal stretch plays, we're talking four vertical. So once again, we need four to beat three deep. Well, let's just run four vertical. It's a horizontal stretch on the secondary. This corner is going to have to essentially pick up the X. This corner is going to have to pick up the Z. Now the Y and the H are one or two on one on this free safety. Okay, once again hitting the seam routes, 18 and 22 yards. You can look off the safety, eyes on the middle for one, looking left, two, three, get your feet in the ground, plug it to the right. Just pretty simple stuff there to just move that, manipulate that safety a little bit. Middle of the field, backer level. The spot route is pretty good. So in basic curl flat concept, what you'll see is a spot route usually by the guy tight end, the Y or the H, whoever's the most inside receiver. They'll run basically a spot route, which is an 8 to 10 curl route over the middle of the field or over the ball, depending on what offensive scheme they like to do. But they'll basically get in between these backers, between the Mike and the Sam, and sit it right in between them, right? Those guys are sinking hook curl. We're just going to replace right where they were, plug it, and move it and get an easy 8 to 10 yard completion. Okay, you'll see that a lot, especially as you get higher and higher in levels in football. Okay, are there any questions on cover three? Cool, moving on. Oh, so cover four, also known as quarters, middle of the field open coverage here. So strengths of it, middle of the field open, but safeties play low. The safeties are actually the run support players in cover four. Okay, the safeties are the run support players in cover four. So any type of inside zone, any type of power, gap scheme, or zone scheme, those safeties are going to be the ones that fill the box. Okay, they play pretty low, right? We're talking in between. I've seen as low as 8, but generally you're going to see between 10 and 12 yards. Okay, they're able to disguise this with cover two pretty easily, especially if those safeties play a little bit deeper, probably 12 to 14. Cover four is pretty good at stopping curl flat. Okay, because if you run the curl here, boom, they're actually falling right into this linebacker zone. So it kind of takes away the curl route there. So it's a zone coverage with philosophies behind it. And we mean man's philosophies is that once you get 10 yards down the field or 12 yards down the field, uh, it actually kind of turns into man coverage. So if we were to run basic full vertical concept, what you'll see is that this corner is going to line up on this receiver, take him vertical. The safety is going to line up on the slot, take him vertical. Free safety is going to take him vertical. Corner is going to take this guy vertical. So it just turns into essentially man coverage after 10 yards. Well, what you'll see is if we were to run clover, right? Those are the two outside verticals and our out routes by our slot guys. Is that instead of now this corner is going to bail off and jump down and cover this 10-yard out route, no, he's still going to carry receiver vertical. And now this safety is going to attach and try to play from behind essentially on that outbreaking route. Okay, if we do a good enough job receiver wise and to stay on our line, stay on our landmark, step on that safety toes, then break out, it should be a pretty easy completion for us because we already have him out leveraged, and then we just got to run away from him in space. Okay, so just once again, just understand that it's going to turn into man coverage once they get 10 yards on the field. So even if we run like a post wheel concept, boom, post, this corner is going to play the post wheel. This safety is now going to have to play the wheel route from the slot. So if he can press up to 10 yards, get out, and then press vertical, you will see this guy, this safety, cover him all the way to the out and then cover him up the field. Okay. Weaknesses, play action. Play action is really good against those safeties. Once again, since those safeties are the run support players, you can manipulate them by running play action, especially if it's from under center. Oh, it can get funky once you start getting under center play action. Okay. Once again, weaknesses are those flats or gimme routes, those free access throws. Okay, those corners. Once again, they're playing a deep zone. They're going to play a quarter zone, deep 25% of the field. So they have to bail out as soon as they get the opportunity. Once again, um, so those free access throws could be very valuable there. Horizontal passing game, another weakness for him. Three underneath zone players, so we can take advantage of that. With only having three guys underneath, if you run a lot of underneath stuff, let's say we're running mesh, let's say we're running, um, spot, whatever you want to call it, right? A lot of in breaking routes, kind of messing up all those backers. If we have four guys running inside, or excuse me, four guys running underneath, and they only have three defenders, one of our guys should be scot-free. Okay, so there's your idea there. Or even if we get a fifth one in with the running back, now we have five against three underneath. Okay, so we can really take advantage of that there. And once again, talking about this room at backer level, go away for the Mike. If the Mike's going to drop to the offensive strength in this specific look, he's going to drop to the left. we can take advantage in between this linebacker and this Mike here, this Will and the Mike. Because since that Mike is going to open left, we can take advantage of his backside, essentially his right side. Okay. So there's that. Any questions on cover four? All right, here we go. Cover zero. This is the last coverage, and then we'll start looking at some stuff. Okay. A little bit of film. All right, cover zero. This is another man coverage here. Man coverage here. Strengths is that it allows for blitzing. This is a blitzing coverage. Okay, blitzing coverage. It is going to be a six-man rush. In this specific look, you're going to see the four down and the Will and the Mike are going to rush. Okay, this four down and the Will and the Mike. It throws off timing routes. Once again, we've already talked about that. It forces the vertical passing game. It could also force the intermediate depending on the offensive play call. Once again, lower percentage throws, takes away your free access, essentially makes you throw the ball down the field, which, as we've already talked about, is a lower percentage throw than what it would be 5 yards down the field. Okay, this is especially tough for the offensive line because now they're going to have to adjust their protection, or quarterback, you're going to have to throw a hot route, or try your best and roll the dice, which is never the fun case as a quarterback. You always want to kind of have an answer for whatever they got throwing at you, right? So the best thing to do is to check protection, have your running back in protection, or if you know they're going to bring inside pressure, have your running back out to the flat on either direction. That way, there's nobody. If there's you're having that free safety essentially cover the running back now, and man, if that free safety is going to be sitting 10 yards deep, and we got a flat route right now, let's go ahead and take advantage of that before that safety makes a play on it. Okay. So we're going to have to throw a hot route there for sure. Once again, personnel mismatches. If their guys are better than ours, that can be tough. Okay, weaknesses, defending the options. Once again, run and pass. If we got them out leveraged in the pass game, if they line up inside leverage, we're going to break out. Run game, there's nobody accounting for the quarterback. So any type of zone read, those DNs crash, we can pull it, get some yak, or get some run yardage there. Okay, so once again, crossing routes, rubs, picks, mesh, any type of slant flat concept, all that kind of stuff. Stick flat can be pretty good there as well. There's no deep help, so if we actually do win one-on-one here, boom, let's say our slot guy beats his strong safety, he slips him past. This free safety is now man on man with his running back. It's one-on-one. If he hasn't beat, we could just take a shot down the field, and it's pretty good to go from there. Okay, so no deep help for any of those defenders. Last but not least, once again, we've already talked about personnel mismatches. If our guys are better than theirs, it's going to be a long day for them to be in man coverage. Okay. So that's basically it for cover zero. Let's look at a little bit of film. All right. So just by basic look, Caden, tell me, is this middle foot open, middle foot closed?
Open.
Yep, middle foot open. Jeremiah, do you think this is a cover two middle foot open or cover four middle foot open?
Cover four,
Yep. What makes you think it's cover four?
because you can look at the corner's feet and it's looking like they're getting ready to drop back.
Yep. That's a good answer. I completely agree. The depth and leverage of the corners there, they're sitting about, what, 7 yards off. They have
Yeah.
staggered feet. Looks like they're going to bail. Good job. So exactly what it ends up being. Cover four, those guys fall off. Touchdown, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So I'm trying to get to a pretty good look here for you guys. All right, I know you guys can't really tell, but they got a three down here, and they got an extra safety here. So they're actually playing three safeties deep on this. That anytime you see three safeties deep, it is a middle field close coverage. So essentially playing cover three just off rip here. I know it's a pretty bad look. I'm gonna try to get a better one here. Okay, so just so you guys see, this is safety here. This is the other safety all the way over here. So does that look like middle foot open or middle foot close to you guys?
Open.
Yep, that's open all the way. That's open all the way. You can see the advantage right here. I mean, this is what? 20 yards in between these two safeties, we could definitely take advantage of that. This is cover four once again. You can see the corner, he's bailing off. It's man tendencies, so our guy breaks to the post. That corner trails him all the way through the post. Sorry, I know it's pretty choppy. Can't really see it. Okay, they're starting two eye look there. Rotate to one, plug the seam. 18 to 22 yards. All right, here's a pretty good look. All right, stop right here. Okay, it says now open or closed.
Close. Closed.
Yep, that's closed all the way, right? One safety high, sitting in between the hashes. Okay, now Kingston, is this cover three or cover one?
3.
Why is it cover three?
But I like what what's name said, the corners, leverages and stuff.
Okay, leverages and stuff. Leverages and stuff. Okay, I want you to walk into a college coach's office and say leverages and stuff. See what he does. Okay, I'm picking on you, but I am kind of being serious too. So I want you guys to really take this stuff and focus on it. Okay, it's the depth and leverage of the corners. Okay, you see the depth of the corners. They're sitting already what 7 yards off. Butts are towards the sideline. We talked about that last week, or I think even maybe even week one. We're saying, hey, wherever that defender's butt is, that's where his help is. His butt is towards the sideline. We know his 12th defender is going to be the sideline, right? So let's plug the seam here, right? 18 to 22 yards, thrown away from that safety. He goes off to the right a little bit. Boom, hit it on the left. Jesus Christ. All right, let's go look here. Open or closed?
Open.
Yep, open. What coverage is this? Y'all think it's two or four?
4.
What makes you think it's four?
Corners, depth and leverage.
There we go. Great answer. Depth and leverage at the corners. Give me another reason why you think it's cover four.
Safeties are playing run support.
There you go. Great answer, Jeffries. Okay, these guys are playing low, right? You see how this guy's what, maybe 9 yards from the line of scrimmage, maybe 10. Okay, so that lets you know, hey, they're playing low. They're the run support. So what we talk about a weakness is in cover four is play action. Let's do a little bit of play action, Adam. Did you saw that guy? He stuttered for a half second. Next thing you know, boom, post right over his head. Watch this dot. Y'all never thrown a jump ball like that in your life. Dot. Okay, Guilford is historically known for running a lot of cover three. One safety high here. Boom, plug it, whatever. Okay, so we got less than a minute. Appreciate you guys hopping on. Are there any questions before we hop off?
I got one, coach.
What's up?
So with the cover four look that you just showed us,
Yep.